Hello everyone! In this week's video, I'm testing out Parkoo markers. Parkoo is sponsoring this video, but all thoughts and opinions are my own. Also, Parkoo is working with me to bring all of you a giveaway. I'll talk more about that later in the video. Anyways, let's get started. I have tried Parkoo markers in the past. I tested out their 80 set of markers. The set I'll be using in this video is their 48 set that now includes a colorless blender. I'll talk more about the colorless blender in the video. I do find it a little funny that the blender is kind of just set on top of all the other markers, but I guess doing it like this makes it so that you still get all 48 colors in the set, so that's really nice. This set costs $19.99 on Amazon, so it's about 42 cents per marker. This is pretty inexpensive when it comes to markers. These markers have a bullet nib and a chisel nib. You also get a swatch card for swatching the markers. The colors you get are wine red, rose red, cherry pink, carmine, San Diego, just carmine, vermilion, pastel pink, peach, French vermilion, pastel peach, powder pink, fruit pink, grass green, yellow green, pastel green, it looks more like yellow, dark green, deep green, emerald green, mint green light, pale green, cerulean blue, Indian blue, ice blue, baby blue, turquoise blue, royal blue, dark blue light, sky blue, wow that's a lot of blues, light violet, lavender, chocolate, burnt orange, brick brown, burnt sienna, rose beige, chestnut brown, yellow ochre, raw umber, black, light pink, pale lilac, mignonette, I'm not sure if I'm saying that one right, frost blue, blue gray, cool gray number 4, cool gray number 6, warm gray number 5. So that is all the colors you get. I do feel like you get a good variety of colors. It's nice that it comes with a good amount of skin tones if you like drawing people. One thing I did notice is that you hardly get any yellows. There is a color that looks like yellow, but it's labeled as a green. The only other yellow we get is yellow ochre, and it's kind of more of a tanny color than a yellow. A lot of the browns are very similar, so I feel like we could get rid of maybe 2 browns and instead give some more yellows. Also, the name for color 174 doesn't match. The chart says mignonette or something like that, but the cap says spring dim green. I thought this was interesting that they didn't match. I really like the pastel colors in this set. I'm happy we get so many lighter colors. So now I need something I can color with these markers. I go into my computer and draw a simple picture of a boy. I didn't put too much thought into this. I kind of just drew whatever my brain decided to come up with. So we get this. I also posted this as a coloring page on my Patreon page for my patrons. So I thought it would be fun to do a marker challenge like the 1 marker challenge or the 3 marker challenge, but I couldn't decide which one to do, so I'm going to do both. I'm going to color this picture with 1 marker, 3 markers, and then 5 markers. I thought this might be fun because we'll see what I do differently depending on how many markers I can work with. Also, I'm allowing myself to use the colorless blender as a bonus. I'm not counting it as a marker. When I see other artists do these kinds of challenges, they often don't count the colorless blender as a marker since it's not a color. So here's my finished line art. I printed it out onto some cardstock and now I can start coloring. For the 1 marker challenge, I'm using the color 182 Frost Blue. I wanted to use a very light color. By using a light color, I'm able to blend it out and use it as shading for many different parts of the picture because it's not super strong or overbearing. I start by coloring the mask completely blue. I add some shading to the face by the nose and eyelid. I use the colorless blender to blend out the color and make it lighter. I repeat the same process for the eye. I decide to add a shadow along the top part of the eye, kind of underneath the eyelashes. I decided not to fill in the eye since I only have this 1 color. I don't know, I kind of liked the iris not being filled in. It kind of reminded me of some mangas where the characters have just kind of more blank eyes, and I always think they look kind of cool. Now I'm moving on to the hair, and I was thinking about completely filling in the hair, but then I decided to shade it by applying blue where the shadows are and then blending the color out with the colorless blender. If you don't know what a colorless blender is, it is basically a marker filled with clear ink. Marker ink likes to blend together when it is wet, so by applying the colorless blender to the wet blue ink, we are able to make it fade out onto the paper. I work on the hair section by section. I try to be quick so that the ink will blend out nicely. I try to draw some parts of the blue color longer, and I also make it follow the way the hair is flowing. That way it kind of looks like hair strand detail. The colorless blender helped a lot with this picture because I was able to get more variation with my one blue color. It also just really helps things look more smooth and blend things out. Like the shading on the hair would have been much harsher and not nearly as soft if I was using only the blue marker. For his eyebrows, I didn't want them to be too dark since he has a light hair color, so I put a layer of colorless blender and then applied the blue on top of that. This makes it so that the blue is lighter. We are almost done. I fill in the collar and the sleeve of color. This was pretty simple, it's just a flat layer of color. Lastly, I add a shadow under the neck by putting a layer of colorless blender and then adding some of the blue. And here's the finished picture using only the color Frost Blue. I really like this blue, it's super pretty. So now it's time for 3 markers. The colors I'm using for this picture from lightest to darkest are pale green, grass green, and emerald green. I chose these colors because they all blend really nicely together. I thought about choosing 3 different colors, but I thought it'd be fun to shade the picture with the same color family. Is that the right word for this? They're all kind of different versions of green. Anyways, I'm starting by shading the hair. I knew shading the hair would take me the longest, so I figured I'd get started with that. For coloring the hair, I start with my darkest color, emerald green. I blend out the darkest color with my middle color, grass green. And then I blend out that color with my lightest color, pale green. Yeah, a lot of blending. Sometimes I re-go in with my middle color and darkest color to make the shadows a bit darker again, because when I go over those colors with my lightest color, they get lightened a little bit. So by going back in with the darker colors, I can re-darken them. Like with the first picture, I'm working as fast as I can and while the ink is really wet so I can achieve a nice blend. I always find blending with 3 markers at once to be a little tricky because like when I'm using 2 markers, I can easily just kind of keep switching back and forth between the 2. But when you have 3 markers, it becomes a little bit more chaotic. I leave all of the caps off the markers, that way I don't have to keep taking them on and off, on and off, on and off. And I often hold 1 marker in my mouth, and then I have 1 marker in my left hand, and then 1 marker in my drawing hand. And then I keep switching between all of the different markers, and I try my best to not confuse them all. I do that sometimes, and sometimes messes things up. I actually ended up getting green marker on my shirt while I was doing this because I was moving the markers around so much and I got myself in the stomach with one of the markers. And I was sad about that. Hopefully it comes out. After shading the hair, I move on to his eye. It was pretty simple to color. I just apply my darkest color on top, blend it out with the middle color, and then blend it out with the lightest color. I also use a little bit of the colorless blender in the bottom of the iris to lighten the color and make it more shiny. Next is the mask. I fill it in with my middle color and darkest color. That way it's a little bit darker than his hair color. I often get questions about how to make markers look smooth, and I have talked about it in previous videos, but I'll mention it here as well. To make the coloring look smooth, you want to really saturate the paper with the ink. That way all of the area you are coloring will get the same amount of ink and it will look more smooth. Also try to work fast so that the color blends together. Even if you're using 1 color, the color turns out smoother if you fill in the area more quickly. Also, the paper you are using can affect how smooth you can make the markers look. Some papers it's easier to make look smooth than others. I recommend using smooth paper. I like to use a smooth cardstock for marker illustrations. Oh, also, I used a little bit of white gel pen to add the highlights in the eyes. I could have just left some white area in the eyes when I was coloring, but it felt easier to go back in later with a little bit of white gel pen. And here's the picture colored with 3 markers. Using 3 markers allowed me to get more depth with the shading, like the hair and the eyes. So now it's time for 5 colors. This time I wanted to fully color the picture instead of leaving some parts white. The 5 colors I'm using are Rose Beige, Burnt Sienna, Frost Blue, Baby Blue, and Fruit Pink. I start by coloring the skin with Rose Beige. I decided to go with a dark skin tone because I thought it would look really neat with the light blue. For adding shadows to the skin, I use Burnt Sienna. I apply this around the eyelid and on the neck. I'm really pleased with these colors and how they worked together. They blended really nicely. So this time around for the hair, I'm trying something a little bit different with the shading. It's more stylistic compared to the shading style I used with the 3 markers. I draw a curving line around a strand of hair with my darker color, Baby Blue. I also fill in the strand a little bit with this darker color. I then blend out the darker color with my lighter color, Frost Blue. I liked this color so much the first time I used it, I wanted to use it again. And I basically just keep repeating this process all around the hair. After a little bit, I did start to blend out the curving line with my lighter color, that way it fades nicely into the hair. Then I would go back in and add more of the Baby Blue. This was actually a really quick way to shade the hair. The green hair took me about 18 minutes to shade, and this hair took me 12 minutes. So we took away 1/3 of the time. It also makes the hair look really shiny, and I really like that. I really like it when hair looks shiny. I tried shading the hair like this mostly because I just finished shading the hair of the other picture, and I didn't want to have to do pretty much the same thing again, only with 2 markers. I really like this style. It's a lot of fun, and I want to try using it more often. For his eyes, I decided to make them blue to match his hair. I used the Baby Blue and then blended out with Frost Blue. I then used the colorless blender in the bottom to lighten the color like I did with the green eyes. I also added a little bit of shading to the white part of the eye. I always really like how this looks. I feel like it gives the eye a little bit more depth and it doesn't feel so flat. My 5th color I chose is Fruit Pink. I chose this color as an accent color. I thought it'd be a really nice complement to the blue and help make things more interesting. I feel like this character could be related to my OC Lulu. I just need to give him bunny ears. You might be wondering what I think of these Parkoo markers. I think these markers are good for beginners that want to try out markers for not very much money. They blend nicely, the colors are really vibrant, and they are really affordable. Also, about the giveaway, Parkoo is giving away 3 of these 48 marker sets, so there will be 3 winners. This giveaway is only available to residents of the United States. I apologize to all my international viewers. Parkoo is only shipping the prizes in the United States. If you are under the age of 18, you need parents' permission to enter. A link to enter the giveaway is in the description. I am using Rafflecopter to pick the winner. Please use your real email when signing up for the giveaway. This is how I will contact you if you win. So here are all of the pictures I colored in this video. It was a lot of fun experimenting with coloring the same picture with different amount of colors. I feel like it helped me try new marker techniques and I felt like I learned some things. Also, thank you so much to this channel's patrons. If you're interested in seeing behind the scenes stuff like everything I draw on my sketchbook, what videos I'm working on, projects I'm working on, like my Inktober project, and helping support my channel, please consider checking out my Patreon page. All of my patrons are so wonderful. Thank you so much for your support. Anyways, that is all for this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next week in my next video. Bye!